Te koto te whānau o Aotearoa Unitarians. Te koto nā manahiri. No mai, haere mai, ki tene hui tupa a te ato te koto te tato katoa. I almost couldn't hear you. We're about to enter sacred time. We're about to make this time and this place sacred by our presence and intention. I invite us to turn down the volume of our fears, to remove our masks unless we're outside or in a crowded environment, and to loosen the armor around our hearts. Don't take my word for it. Do it as slowly as you need to. If you take a little risk with these good people, you may find that they have the same human needs as you do. Breathe. Let go of the expectations placed on you by others and those they taught you to place on yourself. Drop the guilt and the shame, not to shirk accountability, but an honest expectation of the possibility of forgiveness. Let go of the thing you said the other day. Let go of the things you dread next week. Be here in this moment. Breathe here. My opening words are by Ann Barker. We gather with a hunger for reconciliation. What is done cannot be undone. What is done next must now be done with care. We gather because we are hopeful, because we have visions and dreams of a brighter future. That there may be more than vision in this room. There are the wounds we must heal together. Grief and anger for all that has been lost. Guilt or fear in the reliving pain that has gone without sufficient comfort. Mistrust that was earned, that continues burning still. Every injury we may have named and yet still carry. Those we haven't, can't, or dare not speak aloud. Those we are not ready to make public. Those still not recognized, accepted, understood. These are the wounds that seek replacement, not cancellation or denial, wounds we will tend cautiously, applying the salve of understanding, forming scars that mark our history, without disfiguring the future we might share. This is not a time for quick decisions, fancy talking. This is a slow precision. This is a prayer for peace. We are new at this endeavor, new at listening, new at hearing, new at taking enough time to honestly receive one another's stories. What is done cannot be undone. What is done next must now be done with care. We gather because we're hopeful, because we have visions and dreams of a brighter future. May the strength of this time together help us to walk forward. May the wisdom of this experience help us to know our path. May we have the courage to return as often as necessary until our way is clear. May we have the perseverance together to see it through. May we cause it to be so. Our opening hymn is from our supplement to Singing the Living Tradition. It's hymn 1037. We begin again in love. And now, if you have a candle or a chalice, it's time to light it. For every time we make a mistake and we decide to start again, we light this chalice. For every time we are lonely and we let someone be our friend, we light this chalice. For every time we are disappointed and we choose to hope, we light this chalice. For every time we are disappointed and we choose to hope, we light this chalice. For our music today, I've tried to choose a little bit of a variety to cross generations. But one group crosses many generations anyway. Our next song is In My Life by John Lennon. I hope you all sang along. My reading is entitled, a poem entitled Release by Peter Friedrichs. I wish I were like the trees who let their leaves go gracefully, without regret, or the tumbling stream that flushes silt to sea, exchanging murkiness for blessed charity, or the dandelion who bows its head to the subtle breeze, unleashing its future without fear or loss. Instead, I drive white-knuckled defensive as we were taught, tense and guarded for what may come my way. I keep a death grip on my life. If you asked me for my dying wish, it would not be for 10 more wishes. It would be to let go of wishing anymore. Wishing I'd made different choices and that I hadn't hurt you as I did. And to forgo those old and dusty grudges that I keep like pictures in a shoebox beside my bed. I long to embrace my life with a lover's touch, or as you would an injured wren, precious, tender, true. Instead, regret and fear, twin anchors, hold me fast, close in against the shore. Cast off, I hear them call, from the open, exotic lands my heart yearns for. But the waters in between my here and theirs holds unknown hazards, unlike this dark, familiar port. This day, a prayer to ease my grip on what once was, or what is meant to be, that I may find myself content to drift and float upon life's boundless sea. "40 years ago, this past week,
my seminary released me into the world ill-prepared to begin my ordained ministry. In all those years, an annual general meeting has never provoked me to preach a musing on one of the discussions held. It was the discussion debate about approving a remit for the congregation to endorse the Fairer Futures campaign. In their publicity, Fairer Futures says, "We all want to live in happy, thriving communities where everyone has what they need to build their best lives, where everyone has opportunities to explore their talents and fully participate in the community. But all too often, this isn't the case. For decades, politicians of all stripes have neglected key public services like public housing and income support that help low-income families build the lives they want to lead. Strapped with low wages, insecure work, and high rents, more and more of our whānau are being pushed into poverty." I thought that passing this remit would be a slam dunk without debate for us. But as the proverb says, the devil is in the details. The campaign has 7 objectives. 5 seem to be no problem, but 2 of them troubled people for whom I have only the highest respect. The first was remove sanctions. New Zealand's welfare system is still full of sanctions. A system of sanctions reflects suspicion towards income support recipients, stigmatizing those in need of financial assistance. Sanctions cause stress and hardship, and it's not clear if they have any positive effects. Evidence suggests people from disadvantaged backgrounds and minority ethnic backgrounds are most affected by sanctions. They can have significant adverse effects that drive people away from, rather than closer to, employment, and might worsen rather than improve the long-term chances of their children. The second was wipe debt owed to the Ministry of Social Development, or MSD. Debt to MSD owed by benefit recipients has almost doubled in 5 years. 2021 was the first year it reached more than $1 billion. People commonly get into debt to cover the essentials of life. Because income support is inadequate, some of the poorest people in the country owe thousands to MSD that they would never be able to pay back. The New Zealand Herald reported that New Zealanders owed $1.9 billion to the government for programs initially designed to support those same people. While the remit did pass overwhelmingly without a no vote, there were half a dozen abstentions because endorsing the campaign meant accepting all 7 objectives. All week, I've been musing about why some could not endorse this remit in good conscience. What kept going through my head was a line from the Lord's Prayer in the King James Version. "Forgive us our debts," the title of this musing. It's quite obvious I'm not an economist, but I hope my theological perspective will provide me with a better understanding of the underlying issues. This does not preclude me consulting an economist. Michael Hudson, a professor of economics and author of And Forgive Them Their Debts, intrigued me with this observation in an interview in Jacobin magazine. In Rome, the wrong kings were overthrown in about 509 BC by an oligarchy who essentially wanted to reduce the rest of the Roman population to serfdom. The whole republic was a long set of one revolt after another, wanting a debt cancellation and redistribution of land. All of this was called a democracy. Democracy to the oligarchy means all the creditors are equal, and therefore liberty is the liberty to enslave the rest of the population. Democracy throughout antiquity meant serfdom for most of the population. Aristotle was clear on this. He said many cities have constitutions that appear to be democracies, but they're really oligarchies. And in fact, every democracy, Aristotle wrote, tends to turn into oligarchy as wealthy people get rich, and then the oligarchy makes itself into a hereditary aristocracy and lords it over the rest of society. End quote. The highly regarded and honored professor of theology, Molly Pally, offers several helpful insights into the issue raised by Hudson. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. What is it that we're forgiving? As our various English translations have it, do we mean sins, trespasses, or debts? Debts cover both financial and non-financial owing, as in mortgage debt and debt of gratitude. Trespass points to property violations. Sin connotes violation of sacred commandments. What difference does it make to today's notion of forgiveness? The biblical basis for this petition of the Lord's Prayer was written in part with reference to the biblical seventh year laws, sometimes called the Jubilee laws, or in Hebrew, Shemitah. They require that after every 6-year period, financial debts be relieved and the lands lie fallow and slaves be set free. But complete debt relief had the unintended effect of drying up loans to the poor. If the debt was going to be forgiven, why give them any money, loan any money? So a workaround was developed to ensure that such loans continued. To complete debt forgiveness, the rabbis of Jesus' era set strict, poor-friendly conditions on lending and interest rates. And the Shemitah laws of debt relief remained a crucial moral principle, having both monetary and non-monetary connotations. By contrast, in Matthew's version, he uses the Greek word for trespass or sin. The author of Matthew uses this word to ensure that other sorts of debt were added to the financial meaning. Two sorts of forgiving, monetary and non-monetary, followed the early church fathers. Tertullian, for instance, explained his understanding of forgiveness through the parable of the wicked servant who refuses to forgive the financial debt even when his own is forgiven. The biblical scholars amongst you will find that in Matthew chapter 18, verse 21 to 25. Church historian Christoph Marschis sums up saying that through antiquity, the debts we are to forgive were understood as both monetary and non-monetary. Origen, another church father, uses both dimensions of the Greek term by citing Luke's version and Romans 13. Give to everyone what you owe them. If you owe taxes, pay taxes. If revenue, then revenue. If respect, then respect. If honor, then honor. And as often he is convinced that these two meanings, monetary and non-monetary debt, are not present by chance. Both financial and non-financial owing continue through the medieval period, preserving both sorts of forgiving into early modernity. Luther is an example, rendering Luke 11:4 as, "Forgive us our sins as we forgive all who are indebted to us." All early English translations of the Bible, except two, the Matthew and Tyndale Bibles, preserve the double meaning of debt. The exception to this tradition is the English Lord's Prayer, which has only trespasses. The connotation of forgiving financial debt recedes. Events in early modern England, primarily the enclosure and privatization of formerly open farmland, may have influenced this translation. This perk left the aristocracy richer and commoners with nowhere to grow food. Prosecutions against commoners for trespassing on newly enclosed land, often to poach game to eat, was a frequent activity by the wealthy and a tragedy for the lower classes, many of whom were sent to prison or the gallows. In short, the aristocracy's sin du jour was refusal to forgive real trespassing. The early Reformed churches associated with the trading and poorer classes did not switch to trespasses, but retained the financial overtones of debt. Economically, those in the trades needed something like shemitah, structured bankruptcy, and debt forgiveness. After an unprofitable venture, they could return to the economy rather than land in a debtor's prison. Calvin, a French immigrant to Geneva, deeply concerned about the poverty of his compatriots there, lambasted the rich for their strict, impoverishing debt collection. He refused communion to those charged with usury. Dale Irwin, president of the New York Theological Seminary, notes, "Payment of debts is very much on the minds of the early Reformed thinkers in Geneva, which greatly influenced John Knox. By the time the Lord's Prayer was being printed, you'll like this, Alex, printed in Scottish Presbyterian prayer books, it was always debts. And it remained debts among the Presbyterians and Congregationalists who came to America. They had been key actors in the efforts to break the nobility's stranglehold on the economy and give commoners a leg up. They too needed financial debt forgiveness and saw it as something merciful that people do. In the 1630 model of Christian charity, John Winthrop preaches monetary debt forgiveness. If the borrower's means of repaying thee be only probable or possible, then is he an object of thy mercy? Thou must lend him, though there be a danger of losing it. In Deuteronomy 15, Winthrop then links forgiveness, financial reprieve, and the Shemitah. Whether thou didst lend by way of commerce or in mercy, if he hath nothing to pay thee, you must forgive. Every 7th year the creditor was to quit that which he lent to his brother, if he were poor as he appears. Those movements had more robust support from merchant classes. Used the word debts. The church that was under bishops, who were mostly aligned with the royalists and associated historically with the landed aristocracy, went for trespasses. Important, if subtle, socio-economic forces are at work here. Which word we use is not really an issue for Unitarians, as the Lord's Prayer is not a common element of our worship. Still, at interfaith services or Christian liturgies I might attend in the future, I will never again use trespasses or sins. I do this for my sake. A rabbi returning home on a train sat near a group of salesmen who were playing cards. Absorbed as he was in meditation, the rabbi refused to join the card game. One of the salesmen, annoyed by the rabbi's aloofness, but unaware of who he was, pushed the rabbi out of the compartment. Upon reaching their destination, the men discovered that their companion on the train was a revered rabbi. This revelation prompted the salesman to ask the rabbi's forgiveness, but the rabbi refused. People then questioned the rabbi about how he could be so unforgiving. The rabbi explained that because the salesman had assumed he was offending a, quote, common man, unquote, on the train, only that man, not the rabbi, could grant forgiveness. Forgiving is not a kind, selfless act. Instead, it is about self-healing, self-empowerment, and self-liberation. As Desmond Tutu, South Africa's former archbishop and a recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize, said, "We don't forgive to help the other person. We don't forgive for others. We forgive for ourselves." Forgiveness, in other words, is the best form of self-interest. Forgiving debt is not only about economic justice. It is a stabilizing influence on society that benefits all of us. The economic policies that punish the poor for being poor benefit only those of us who do not know financial hardship. May those on the margins forgive us our debt to them. For our closing song, I've moved to the newer generation, a very popular song with them by Adele called Hello. My closing words. To pass the peace is a revolutionary act. It means to trust the outsider we fear, to wish well those who have hurt us, and to forgive at last ourselves. To offer the blessing to those around you is to love your neighbor and yourself, and to be at peace with God. Pax vobiscum. Peace. Peace. And now it's time to extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Here's the question. Where do you draw the line for forgiving others, yourself? Where do you draw the line for forgiving others or yourself and yourself?